Banteng in the wild, guardians of the jungle. In the dense tropical forests of Southeast Asia, where ancient trees form cathedral-like canopies and morning mist clings to emerald leaves, a magnificent bovine species roams with quiet dignity. The banteng, Bos javanicus, often called the Asian wild ox, stands as one of nature's most remarkable yet least known guardians of the jungle ecosystem. These powerful, graceful creatures have inhabited the forests and grasslands of their ancestral home for millennia, serving as keystone species that shape entire landscapes through their presence. The majestic banteng, a portrait in wild beauty. The banteng is a creature of striking contrasts and subtle beauty. Adult bulls can weigh up to 800 kilograms and stand nearly 6 feet tall at the shoulder, their muscular frames draped in coats that shift from deep chocolate brown to rich mahogany, depending on the light filtering through the forest canopy. What truly sets them apart are their distinctive white markings, pristine white patches on their rumps and lower legs that appear as if painted by nature's own brush, and the white coloration that extends from their muzzles to their eyes, giving them an almost ethereal appearance in the dappled forest light. The females and young bulls display a lighter, more golden-brown coloration, creating a beautiful spectrum within herds as they move through their forest domain. Both sexes possess the characteristic curved horns of their species, though the bull's horns are significantly more impressive, dark, polished crescents that can span nearly 3 feet from tip to tip, serving as both defensive weapons and symbols of dominance within their social hierarchy. Perhaps most striking is the banteng's bearing. Unlike their domestic cattle relatives, bantengs move with the fluid grace of true wild creatures. Their steps are deliberate and silent, their heads held high with an alertness that speaks to thousands of years of evolutionary refinement. They are animals perfectly adapted to their environment, embodying the very essence of wildness that has become increasingly rare in our modern world. Architects of the forest ecosystem. To understand the banteng's role as guardians of the jungle, one must look beyond their impressive physical presence to their ecological function. Bantengs are what scientists call ecosystem engineers, species whose activities significantly modify their environment in ways that benefit countless other organisms. As they move through the forest in their daily foraging activities, bantengs create and maintain an intricate network of trails that serve as highways for smaller wildlife. Wild pigs, deer, primates, and countless other species utilize these pathways, reducing energy expenditure and creating predictable routes that facilitate mating, feeding, and migration patterns. These trails also influence water flow and soil composition, creating microhabitats that support unique plant communities. Their feeding habits further demonstrate their role as ecological architects. Bantengs are browsers and grazers, consuming a diverse array of vegetation from forest floor herbs to canopy leaves they can reach by standing on their hind legs. This varied diet means they act as mobile seed dispersers, carrying genetic material from plants across vast distances in their digestive systems. Many forest plants have evolved specifically to take advantage of this seed dispersal service, producing fruits and seeds that are particularly appealing to bantengs. The impact of their grazing cannot be overstated. By selectively feeding on certain plant species while avoiding others, bantengs influence the composition and structure of forest understories. They create natural clearings that allow sunlight to reach the forest floor, promoting the growth of shade-intolerant species and maintaining forest diversity. Without this natural management, many forest ecosystems would become dominated by a few shade-tolerant species, dramatically reducing overall biodiversity. Social structure and behavior. The wisdom of the herd. Banteng society is built on complex social relationships that have evolved over thousands of years. Herds typically consist of 10 to 30 individuals, though groups of up to 50 have been observed in areas with abundant resources. The social structure is matriarchal, led by experienced older females who possess intimate knowledge of their territory's resources, seasonal patterns, and escape routes from predators. These lead cows guide their herds through annual migration patterns that can span hundreds of square kilometers. Their mental maps include the locations of mineral licks, seasonal fruiting trees, water sources, and safe calving grounds. This knowledge is passed down through generations, creating a cultural continuity that is essential for herd survival. Adult bulls lead more solitary lives, joining herds primarily during mating season. Outside of breeding periods, they may form small bachelor groups or roam alone, establishing and defending territories through a complex system of visual displays, vocalizations, and scent marking. Their territorial behavior ensures genetic diversity within populations while preventing overuse of resources in any single area. The communication system among bantengs is sophisticated and subtle. They use a combination of low-frequency vocalizations that can travel long distances through dense forest, chemical signals deposited through scent glands, and a rich repertoire of body language. A slight shift in ear position, the angle of the head, or the position of the tail can convey complex information about an individual's emotional state, intentions, or awareness of danger. Seasonal rhythms and ancient migrations. The life of wild bantengs is governed by the monsoon rhythms that have shaped Southeast Asian ecosystems for millions of years. During the wet season, when the forest explodes with new growth and abundant food, herds disperse into smaller groups, taking advantage of the widespread availability of resources. This is the time of plenty, when calves are born and the social bonds that hold herds together are reinforced through shared abundance. As the dry season approaches, bantengs demonstrate their deep understanding of their environment by beginning migrations toward permanent water sources and areas where drought-resistant vegetation persists. These movements are not random wanderings, but purposeful journeys along traditional routes that have been used for generations. The lead cow's knowledge of these ancient pathways can mean the difference between survival and starvation during harsh dry periods. During these migrations, bantengs often create temporary alliances with other species. They may travel alongside wild elephants, whose size and strength help create wider pathways through dense vegetation. In turn, the elephants benefit from the bantengs' acute senses and knowledge of local dangers. These interspecies relationships highlight the interconnected nature of forest ecosystems and the banteng's central role within them. Predators, threats, and survival strategies. In the wild, adult bantengs face few natural predators due to their size and defensive capabilities. Tigers, the apex predators of their range, occasionally hunt bantengs, but successful predation typically involves young, old, or sick individuals separated from the protective embrace of the herd. Leopards, wild dogs, and crocodiles near water sources pose threats primarily to calves and juveniles. The banteng's primary defense against predation is their sophisticated early warning system. Their acute senses, particularly hearing and smell, allow them to detect potential threats long before visual contact is made. When danger is sensed, the herd employs a coordinated response that has been refined over millennia. Adults form protective circles around young animals, with the largest bulls positioning themselves between the herd and the perceived threat. If escape becomes necessary, bantengs can move with surprising speed and agility for such large animals. They are excellent swimmers and can navigate steep terrain that would challenge many predators. Their intimate knowledge of their territory allows them to lead predators into areas where escape routes are plentiful or where the terrain favors the prey rather than the hunter. The bantengs fight for survival. Today, the wild banteng faces its greatest challenge not from natural predators, but from human activities. Once ranging across vast areas of Southeast Asia, from Myanmar to Java and Borneo, banteng populations have been decimated by habitat loss, hunting pressure, and competition with domestic livestock. The species is now classified as endangered by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, with fewer than 8,000 individuals remaining in the wild. Deforestation for palm oil plantations, logging operations, and agricultural expansion has fragmented the banteng's habitat into isolated patches that cannot support viable populations. Roads and human settlements have disrupted traditional migration routes, forcing herds into increasingly marginal habitats where resources are scarce and human-wildlife conflict is inevitable. Perhaps equally devastating is the threat of genetic pollution from domestic cattle. In areas where wild bantengs come into contact with free-ranging domestic stock, hybridization occurs, diluting the unique genetic heritage that has been refined over thousands of years of natural selection. These hybrid animals often lose the behavioral adaptations that allow pure bantengs to thrive in wild conditions. Disease transmission from domestic livestock poses another significant threat. Wild bantengs have no immunity to many diseases that are common in domestic cattle, and outbreaks can devastate wild populations that have had no evolutionary exposure to these pathogens. Conservation efforts and hope for the future. Despite the challenges they face, conservation efforts for wild bantengs are showing promising results in several areas. Protected areas in Thailand, Cambodia, and Indonesia have established core populations that serve as genetic reservoirs and breeding centers for potential future reintroduction programs. One of the most successful conservation approaches has been community-based programs that work with local people to protect banteng habitat while providing economic alternatives to activities that threaten wild populations. In some areas, ecotourism focused on banteng viewing has provided sustainable income for local communities while creating economic incentives for conservation. Scientific research has also provided crucial insights into banteng ecology and behavior that inform conservation strategies. Radio collaring and GPS tracking studies have revealed the extent of their ranging behavior, seasonal habitat preferences, and critical migration corridors that must be protected to ensure population viability. Genetic research has helped identify distinct subspecies and populations that require specific conservation attention. The Bornean banteng, for instance, has been recognized as a distinct subspecies that faces unique conservation challenges and requires targeted protection strategies. The banteng's legacy and our responsibility. The wild banteng represents something precious and irreplaceable, a living link to the ancient forests of Southeast Asia and the complex ecological relationships that have shaped these landscapes for millions of years. As guardians of the jungle, they maintain the health and diversity of some of the world's most biodiverse ecosystems through their daily activities and seasonal migrations. Their loss would create ecological ripple effects that would diminish the richness and resilience of Southeast Asian forests for generations to come. The trails they create, the seeds they disperse, the vegetation they manage, and the complex social knowledge they maintain cannot be easily replaced by any other species. The story of the banteng is ultimately a story about our relationship with the natural world and our responsibility as stewards of Earth's biodiversity. These magnificent creatures ask nothing from us except the space to live as they have for thousands of years, roaming freely through their ancestral forests, raising their young, and maintaining the ecological relationships that keep tropical ecosystems healthy and vibrant. In protecting the wild banteng, we protect not just a single species, but entire ecosystems and the countless other species that depend on the ecological services these gentle giants provide. We preserve the wisdom encoded in their genes and behaviors, the ancient knowledge of forest pathways and seasonal rhythms that represents thousands of years of coevolution with their environment. The banteng's future lies in our hands. Whether future generations will witness these magnificent guardians moving silently through the jungle or will know them only through photographs and museum specimens depends on the choices we make today. In their quiet dignity and ancient wisdom, the bantengs remind us that we are not separate from nature but part of it, and that our fate is inextricably linked with theirs. As the sun sets over the tropical forests of Southeast Asia, casting long shadows through the trees, the wild banteng continue their eternal role as guardians of the jungle. They represent hope, resilience, and the enduring power of wild nature to adapt and survive. It is up to us to ensure that their ancient song continues to echo through the forest for generations yet to come.